Hello. Today it's time for part 2 of our lesson about volume. So it's kind of a continuation of the one that I did the last time, except we're going to add a formula today. So last time we talked about finding formula by using our centimeter cubes and filling a container and finding the volume that way. But as we all know, we don't carry around gobs and gobs of cubes that we can go figure out volume every time we need to do so. So we've got a formula that we're going to use today. But in order to use that formula, we need to review the formula for the area of a rectangle because that is going to help us with our volume. So if you will recall, area of a rectangle was length times width, or base times height, whichever way you want to do that. And the reason I bring that formula up is because when we look at the volume formula, it's going to be V for volume equals B, which is the area of the base, times the height, or the height of the prism. Okay, so V equals B times H. It doesn't sound too difficult yet. However, you're going to have to usually do 2 calculations before you get your final volume, depending on what the shape is. So let's take a look at this one right here. And you'll notice that my drawing is a little off here, but it's hard to do with markers, so we'll just make do. But basically what we're looking at is this is a stack of 1, 2, 3, 4 three-dimensional cubes. So if I'm looking at my formula and I want to look at the base first, I have 1 cube on the bottom. So I want to be thinking to myself, okay, if I were thinking about a rectangle, thinking about the area of a rectangle, it's length times width. Well, my length is 1 and my width is 1. So my base is going to be 1 for this particular shape. So my base, I'm going to think in my head that that's 1 times 1, because that's where I got that length times width. And then I'm going to multiply that times the height, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 cubes tall, which is 4. That's where I'm getting those numbers from. So this one is fairly easy because my answer here is 1 times 4. So my volume is 4. And I didn't give you a unit, but I told you that we were going to measure it in cubic units. So I'm going to put units cubed there for my answer. So again, I took my base, which was 1 by 1, length times width. That's where I got that from. And I took my height, which was 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where that number came from. And then I multiplied 1 times 1, which is 1, times 4. And that's how I came up with 4 units squared. Okay? Now, let's take a look at some other shapes, and as you can see, this one's a little bit more complicated. I have 2 cubes that are going to be my width and 2 cubes that are going to be my length. So again, if I think about the formula, okay, my base is going to be 2 times 2. And my height, it's 2 cubes tall. So basically I have 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 is going to give me 8 units cubed. Okay, so again, I looked at my base, which in this instance, it does form a rectangle, so I can use that length times width. That's where I get the 2 times the 2. There's 2 wide, 2 long. Multiplied those together, got 4, and it's too tall, which is my height. So that's how I get 8 for that one. Okay, let's take a look at this one right here. Again, I'm going to write my formula out to remind me what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm going to look at my base. Now, this particular one has 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes long, but only 1 cube wide. So my base is going to be 4 times 1 times my height, which is 1, 2, 3. So 4 times 1 is 4, times 3 is 12 units cubed. So again, I found the area of the base, which is still a rectangle because it's 4 long and 1 wide. That's where I got my 4 times my 1. And then my height is 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So the volume for this particular shape would be 12 units cubed. Now, you're going to have some shapes that look like this that are not all the way filled in. So can I do that? Well, for this one, I could try to use my formula, but I have some cubes missing. So for this instance, I might just have to count my cubes because this is going to be, and let's see, let's work it both ways. If I count them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes. So I'm going to put that over here. I count 4. Let's see if we get the same answer if we actually use the formula. So I have 3 wide and 1 for my width. And my height is 2 here, but it's not on both of those sides. So I would have to probably subtract 2 from my answer. Let's see if that works. So if my height is 2, so this would be 3 times 2, which is 6. And then I subtract those 2 cubes that are missing. Well, I end up with the same answer that I got when I actually counted the cubes. Okay? So, basically what you're doing, if you have a shape that you're trying to find the volume and it forms some kind of rectangle or a square and all of the cubes are filled in, you don't have anything missing, you can use the formula and make sure to find the area of your base first for a rectangle. Remember, it's going to be length times width, and then you're going to multiply that times your height, how tall it is, and the formula is going to work. Now, if you get a shape that you're missing some cubes, you can still use the formula, but you're going to have to subtract from your answer those cubes that are missing. So sometimes in instances like this, it's just a little bit easier to sometimes count those because you're going to have some shapes that are going to fall into that category where you're actually missing some of those cubes. You might have one that looks like blocks for building something on the outside or the perimeter, but there's no cubes on the inside, or it might just fill the bottom part but not fill the whole thing in, and you might have to find the volume of that. So again, you're not going to be able to use the formula because all of it won't be filled in. Alright, so again, the formula for volume is base times height, and remember that base is the area of the base. Okay, the area of the base times the height of the prism. Okay, so if you remember that, you shouldn't have any problems. I think finding volume is kind of fun. So it might be an activity that you actually enjoy as well. And let's get to practicing in class. See you then.